This episode is brought to you by Audi. The road is calling. Embrace the thrill of the drive with the all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron. Featuring effortless power, serious acceleration, and advanced Audi tech. It's not just a new EV. It's a new way to experience driving. The all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron is here. The next chapter of Audi starts now.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does, without me lifting a finger. So I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
Hey, Fidelity. What's it cost to invest with the Fidelity app?
Start with as little as $1 with no account fees or trade commissions on U.S. stocks and ETFs.
That's music to my ears.
I can only talk.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Zero account fees apply to retail brokerage accounts only. Sell order assessment fee not included. A limited number of ETFs are subject to a transaction-based service fee of $100. See full list at fidelity.com/commissions. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
You're listening to the Animation Addicts Podcast, episode 277, the best and worst Disney live-action adaptations. Welcome to the Animation Addicts Podcast with the Rotoscopers, the number one place to get your animation fix with animation addicts just like you. Each episode, we dive into the wonderful world of animation featuring Disney, DreamWorks, Pixar, and everything in between. From hilarious discussions and movie reviews to interviews with industry insiders, this show's mission is to brighten your day through our love of animation. So hop on your nerdy couch, grab some snacks, and get ready to hang out with your animation besties because it's time to dive into today's episode. Hey there, animation addicts. I'm your host, Morgan Stradling.
And I am Chelsea Robson.
And we are back for another Nerdy Couch discussion episode. This one is a patron submission. So we've kind of wrapped up these big, long series that we've done. We've gotten a lot of really great feedback about the Pixar discussion, ranking the Pixar eras and the Disney eras. People have loved those discussions. So we're going to take a pause for a little bit until we can think of the next batch to do. And we're going to some of our patron questions. So one of the perks of being a patron is that you get to give suggestions for our Nerdy Couch discussion episodes. So this is by Matthew L. And he asks, what are the best and worst Disney live action adaptations? Oh boy.
This is definitely opening up a soapbox.
And a big can of worms.
Yes.
There's Chelsea is going to step on her soapbox and open a can of worms at the same time.
Look at these worms, people. Look at them.
Get ready, guys, because we got a lot to talk about.
Lowe's knows what makes SpringFest savings even better are member-only doorbuster deals. Right now, rewards members can save $40 on an Allen & Roth Chesler Gold faucet. Was $99, now $59. Plus, save $110 on a Cobalt 40-volt battery trimmer and blower combo kit. Was $279, now $169. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 3/24 while supplies last. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
We have a list here, and hopefully it's complete, although I did notice that Pete's Dragon was missing from this list on Wikipedia, so we'll insert that as needed. And it's hard, because these are really what classifies as a live-action adaptation is if it's a live-action remake of an animated film. So I think that's probably why Pete's Dragon isn't on the list.
Probably,
so
from
that's
the Wikipedia.
What we'll stick with. We'll stick... Specifically, they have to be a remake of an animated, like a Disney animated film, and not necessarily other properties. So,
I mean, to be honest, Pete's Dragon wouldn't go up on my high list for either. Like, whether it's on the list or not, I don't think I would put it up high.
So right now there are 18 here, and then, gosh, probably about 20 that have been announced, which is crazy.
Oh, no.
Remember that period of time, about 2016, when they just kept announcing these again and again, and it was just a joke. Every movie is going to get a live action remake, and it's kind of like, why? And you know what? I still feel that way. Why? A lot of them, some of them aren't good. So, sorry to spoil it early on, but let's jump back to the very beginning. Before these remakes every 2 seconds was a thing, let's go back to 1994, December, Christmas Day. We have Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book, based on The Jungle Book. And this one, I remember. Not that I don't remember the other ones, but this one I remember watching multiple times. I loved it. It was very good.
I really like this one. It's got great casting. It's a different take on the whole story as far as, Mowgli is older. He's super hunky. He's got all this thing going for him. And then you also have Cary Elwes as Captain William, and he also played Wesley in The Princess Bride. So I always thought it was kind of cool to have him play the villain in this one. There were a lot of things in this that I really like. John Cleese. I mean, come on, who doesn't love John Cleese in a great film? So I remember loving this and thinking it was kind of cool that the animals were there, but they weren't particularly talking. And it was just kind of felt very real and completely like out of this world. But I liked it. And I still have it, and it's still one that I'd be like, yeah, let's totally watch that.
Mm-hmm. And so one of the trends that you're going to see, not so much early on, but as we get moving into the mid-2010s, is you're going to recreate the original, almost scene by scene, dialogue by dialogue, word by word, or are you going to do a spin on it and make it different, make it unique, make it obviously based on, but it's its own thing. And with The Jungle Book, you have the source material. There's so much that was cut.
Right.
There's multiple books. And so they did what rightfully for me is the right path to go, where it's make it your own thing, make it different, make it unique, make it stand out. We will see with some of these, it's like you're trying to be the original. I would rather just watch the original.
Right.
So let's go to the next one, 101 Dalmatians, November 27th, 1996. I do remember all the promo for this one.
I was very excited for this one.
And it was good. It was good for what I recall. I mean, I honestly can't tell you the last time I've seen this movie, but it's totally different.
Yeah. And I remember liking it. I remember being like, yeah, this was fun. I liked seeing how Glenn Close did different things. Glenn Close, was made for this role. I don't think that there's anybody else that they could have chosen to do this one.
I just remember at the very end so Roger is a computer game designer, programmer, and he makes this game at the very end of the Dalmatians in like a minecart, and it's like the final demo that he's showing off, and it looked just like the coolest game in the world to me.
I know,
and I wanted to play it so bad, but turns out it was just a fake game they made for the movie. It never existed. Yeah, so lame, because trust me, I would have bought it. That was perfect product placement.
It would have been, especially that ending scene, of her going down the minecart, and it's great villain, mate.
Yes.
Great villain, mate. All right, you've got a sale. I liked how they changed it to him being, a game designer as opposed to a musician of the time. I liked what they did with it, and I still quote the old ladies by the bay or by the lake. We're like, I don't think he wanted to do that. Like, it's still on a thing that I quote almost weekly, at least coming out.
Well, it left its paw print on you.
Right. It's because there's always something that I'm like, I don't think I wanted to do that. So
next up, 102 Dalmatians. Now, this came out November 22nd, 2000. Directed by Kevin Lima of a Goofy Movie fame. I can't speak to this movie. I never saw it.
I did. I didn't really like it.
That's all we have to say about that.
Yeah, I didn't really like it. I felt like it was weird because they were trying to like bring on like Pavlov's dog, the fact that the Big Ben bell rings, and therefore she ends up at one point in time, I love the puppies. Oh, I love them all. But then the moment the bell rings for like the 12th time or something, it switches her back to her old person. And I mean, I get what you're trying to do. I get it. But it just didn't seem like it was trying to do anything new with any of the characters. And it was just kind of like it felt like a money grab. Even as a kid, I was like, meh.
Yeah. So then we skip a decade. I mean, these just happened to be a few that they had done in the 90s. We really skipped the 2000s as a whole.
But I understand. I feel like because 102 Dalmatians didn't go off the way that they would have wanted is the reason why they skipped the decade.
It wasn't needed. They did the remake and it was good. But, of course, we will see. It's like, well, but what about more?
What about more?
So we have Alice in Wonderland, directed by Tim Burton in March 5th, 2010. And actually, Chelsea and I just read an interesting article that he had done talking about how he's essentially done with Disney. And this poor guy really has, and I think this is kind of not common in the movie industry, but you're just treated like very disposable. He has been fired and rehired so many times by Disney over his career. It's like a horrible boyfriend or girlfriend you keep coming back to, but he says he's done. But at this point in time, he came back, and this movie was wild, totally different, totally unique. I remember the marketing for this movie. It's not the same. It's similar characters, obviously. It's based on the same book and the movie, but he took it in a totally Tim Burton direction, and it's good for that reason. Yeah. I've only really seen it maybe once or twice, but I enjoyed it. I don't love it where I have to keep going back and rewatching it, but over $1 billion this did. So this was a phenomenal home run for them.
Yeah, I don't remember enjoying it. I have a weird...
It's very Tim Burton. And that alone is kind of going to put you off, maybe.
Right.
And I kind of feel that way too. It's just sometimes it's just not my vibe, Yeah,
not
that it's bad.
I just don't vibe along with it. But I can respect the man for trying to do something incredibly different and doing his own thing. Like, great. It seems, if you're looking at the tomato reader, I don't think that any of the critics gave it 51 and the fans or the audience gave it a 55. So it's not, we were not alone in our distaste for it. But once again, it's like, I don't fault him as the creator necessarily, but more or less maybe the wrong or not for every audience.
Yeah. Then we skip 4 years. So we still haven't hit our stride of multiple of these a year.
Is this a stride or is just a, like, I don't know if I would say hit our stride. I would call this more of like a black pit. Like just falling down.
We haven't fallen into the black pit of abyss of remakes, okay? So next up is Maleficent, May 30th, 2014. Now, based on Sleeping Beauty, obviously, I remember being so excited for this. It was cool. It was Angelina Jolie. It was obviously going to be totally different because it was focused on her as a villain. And then, as I saw this movie, I just kind of realized, do we have to give villains these sympathetic backstories, which is ultimately what it did.
Right.
Which we'll see more of this throughout.
I mean, it's just a totally different story, though. Like, this is like a whole other universe.
Exactly. And that's okay. And I think that's what makes it different. That's what makes it unique. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, well, this is just the live action retelling of, her story. It's a different universe, like you said.
Yeah, I remember going into this being very open-minded because I did think it was really cool. I thought she fit the role, like, aesthetically.
She was made
so
for it,
well. And so all of that in the animations, like everything, the effects, everything just looked like it would be amazing. And it really was like that on that side. Everything visually was aesthetically so cool to watch. Critics give it 54, audience 70. I would be leaning more toward the 54. I wasn't a fan after watching it, but I do recognize after seeing like the number 2, I recognize that it is another universe. And if I think about it as being an entirely different universe, then I'm able to like let go of a lot of criticisms for it.
Yeah. So next up is Cinderella, based on the Cinderella of the same name, April 15th, 2016. Now, I remember this. I remember there was the first photo that was released of her riding the horse and just the casting, which was kind of interesting. And I adore this movie. This movie gets it right.
Yes.
It's not trying to be Cinderella. It gives, there's different characters, the stepmother has a bit of a backstory to her as to why she kind of is the way she is, but it's not necessarily sympathetic in a way. It's not, to redeem her, how horribly she's treated her. I really love what they do with the prince and how she meets him early on, but she doesn't know he's him still. And they really form a relationship, which we see, which isn't so just surface level, love at first sight sort of thing. Not that that's bad in Cinderella. It is what it is. And that's great. There are those stories, but this just gives it a little bit more depth. And there's higher stakes later. He's the one who kind of, we see at the end, he's involved in going to rescue her, not rescue her, but I guess he does rescue her because she's trapped, but to find her again. And it's just different. It's just it's a Cinderella story. There's been many of these over the years, but you look at this and you're not saying, oh, that's a copy or a total remake of the original. There's elements, but it stands alone. And that is the key to a great live action remake, is that the live action one stands alone, doesn't need the other one to prop it up or even to reference. Of course they're going to throw in the little references of the mice and this and that just to, give you a little Easter egg, but it's not critical.
I agree.
They take out parts when needed and swap out new things.
I love this
keep
one. I felt like even having Helena Bonham Carter coming in as the godmother is just like such a twist on who I expect her to be. But I felt like she did a great job. And Cate Blanchett, oh my gosh, there's just so much to love about her style. Every outfit is just like, yes, I love it. It's so pretty. And everything worked with this movie. I mean, Lily James as Cinderella just did a really great job. Richard Madden, I mean, he's hunky and like very sympathetic and a guy that's like trying, as opposed to just like kind of a faceless or a personality-less face in is what is the other one. And Patrick Doyle, this is probably one of my favorites up there. Like, this is probably number 2 of my favorites of his as far as soundtracks go. Little Princess is by far my favorite of his, but then this one is right below it.
Next up is Jungle Book, based on the Jungle Book. This is the second Jungle Book remake that they have done and came out April 15th, 2016. So 1 year after Cinderella. This movie did really well. I liked this movie well enough because it tried to be somewhat different from the original. They added some new storylines that were in the book. However, compared to the 1994 version, I like that one better, I think.
I do too.
This one's like in between, trying to remake the original and trying to be something different. Yeah. And I think this is one of the first times we see not 100% copying the original, but getting there with a few changes here and there. So,
yes.
I think the part where Baloo is singing with Mowgli, it just feels kind of out of place with the more photorealistic sort of bear.
Right.
Animation works so well for that. And you can suspend your disbelief, but when it's a realistic bear, shaking his thing and singing and dancing, it's just odd.
It is.
And doesn't work as well. It was kind of unneeded. They needed to really drop the songs for the most part. So
well, and then I do believe that Neil Sethi, who played Mowgli, is his acting ability in this movie is just really impressive because the entire thing, other than him, is on a sound screen. And I have to give him the props for that because, like, just to be able to later on make that work is just insane.
That's really another thing that this whole era began was just that everything is CGI, and that's a story for another day. I don't love the full CGI films. They come off strange. They come off uncanny. I don't feel like I'm really in that world. Sometimes it takes the action to a place that's just so unbelievable. There's period that where like people are flying out of the sky, not in these movies, but other movies, flying out of the sky and fighting. And it's just not realistic. I am so much a proponent of try to do as much as you can with practical effects. It's just so much better of a show. And I think Lord of the Rings is a great example of that. They did a lot of so many miniatures to get these shots of these buildings and it feels real because it is real. Yes, it's a small scale of it, but then they mix it with CGI in a smart way, but they just don't rely on the CGI. Like, hey, we're just going to film it here and then like throw crap on it. And I think that's maybe why I didn't love some of these. I start not loving these films because they feel so inorganic. Yeah. Especially Alice. Alice is all that way. Yeah. Maleficent, a lot of it's like that. Cinderella, no. Cinderella's great. Jungle Book wasn't entirely green screen. It's like you couldn't find a real forest. You couldn't even... Yeah. Like, the nature is so beautiful. Yeah. So, anyway, we will see this being a problem. That's when you compare this one to the 1994, and the 1994 is just everything is real. Yeah. Like everything is on location. All the animals are trained maybe to wave. You have the bear who like does a wave thing. But other than that, like all the animals are just kind of there like, sup. Yeah. Next up is Alice Through the Looking Glass. I have not seen this one. I don't know, some of these ones, if I didn't necessarily love and wasn't obsessed with the original, I wasn't going to see the sequel. And this was around that time where they started announcing these. Like every other day we were getting an announcement of another remake. And I was just kind of turned off by it. So I didn't love Alice enough to go and see the sequel. And so I didn't. I mean, critics did not like it. This was at 29% and fans at 48%. So also not alone in that. The worst of all of them. Beating out, spoiler alert, Pinocchio, which is last on our list. I don't understand how that. Shocking. And I think this really made people realize, made Disney, maybe not, but you would hope they'd realize, oh, you mean we can't just keep going back to that trough and filling up, for $1 billion? It's like, nope. They started really announcing these in 2016. And you think about it, it wasn't that long ago. And if I look at the dates of all of the next coming ones, it's like they all came out in 2019. And it's just like, no wonder we got just so bombarded by these things and just be like, shut up. Sorry, shut up is probably a bad word. But it's just like, we have Dumbo Dumbo, Aladdin, and Lion King all come out within a 3 or 4 month time period. Too much.
Much too much.
We'll get
there. So we did Alice in Wonderland, but then here comes Beauty and the Beast.
Okay, Beauty. This is the one that just I didn't see it in theaters because I started to be really turned off by these at this point in time. I'm not interested in seeing these remakes, and they got Emma Watson to be Belle, but she was not known to be a singer, but this was going to be a movie that had like these iconic songs. So that always bugs me, they just did her because they got her because she played a bookish character,
right.
And she's a smart girl, right? But it's just casting. I didn't love it. Some people thought it was the greatest thing they've ever seen.
I love her. I did not love her in this.
Right. So she's okay. So March 17th, 2017, this one comes out. They just tried to make her too much of what she wasn't. They tried to make her this headstrong 2000s girl who she was the inventor and she was this and she's the outspoken one. And Belle was a lot of those things, but she just did it in a nice way. She was so appealing. And her Belle is not. But my biggest problem with this movie is that it's a side-by-side remake, almost scene by scene, of the original, where it's painful, it's pathetic, it's hard to watch.
I remember when the first commercial came out for it, and it was intriguing. And I just remember so many people being like, take my money. I want to see this movie because they did the trailer as a side by side of like, hello, is anybody here?
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like it was like, oh wow, they're redoing this. I think they could have done stuff like that in moments, but they tried to take liberties in the wrong places, I guess. I don't know.
It also feels very inauthentic because a lot of it is done on the green screen.
Yes.
So they just have these sweeping shots that just feel unreal. And they just, again, the human mind can tell. You can just tell. And I didn't love a lot of the art direction. They have this Baroque inspired castle. Everything's so ornate and gaudy, and it's just dark. It's hard to look at. It's not a fun movie to watch. I only watched this because we were sent the DVD. I needed to do a review for it, or the Blu-ray. And so that's really the only reason I watched the movie, and I didn't have great things to say about it. And after this point, I kind of just made the decision that I'm done with these. This was so bad in my mind. And they added these new songs, and I was like, whatever. I just didn't care about any of those things. It just was not good. And so unfortunately, from this point on, I have seen very few of the movies on here because I just finally said, no, I'm not going to support this anymore. I don't want them to make any more. I'm going to vote with my dollars. And so I've kind of done that. So take it away, Chelsea, with Christopher Robin.
I have seen some of these. Christopher Robin, I would say that Christopher Robin had its charming elements, but also it was like it was trying to maybe be Pixar type of like digging into your histories and maybe trying to like reevaluate your life based on how you were as a child. And it was just also super boring because you had a moment where like characters are now out of the 100-acre wood and they're trying to find Christopher Robin. And it's just like, it just doesn't fit. Like it doesn't work and it's kind of boring. And then we move into Dumbo, and going back to that article that you sent me about Tim Burton, and in it he says that Dumbo was a little bit of a autobiographical experience, and it wasn't until he said that I was like, oh yeah, I definitely see that. Because there's a point in time where there is kind of like a Disney-esque kind of theme park that he goes into, and he's just like, yeah, I just feel like the whole thing is just a circus, and I was like, yeah, I can see that. The Dumbo itself, I just felt like the you're trying to add too many scenes, and Dumbo was like maybe 60 minutes, and then this one was longer, and so it's like, okay, how much can you actually add to add? Because if you can take a story and take it down, you really shouldn't try to beef it up, because then you're just losing the plot. And then Aladdin comes in, and I felt like Aladdin could have been something really cool. I grew up loving the Fresh Prince and being like, yeah, I'm here for it if Will Smith wants to try to do his take on a genie, of what a Will Smith genie would look like. But because it's impossible to repeat the magic of Robin Williams. It is, and it should never be tried.
Unfortunately, they kind of did.
They kind of did. And if they would have changed the music portions to be more of a Will Smith kind of vibe, I could have gone with it as being like I get it. I get what you're trying to do, and you're trying to make something completely different. It would be kind of like a Hamilton kind of effect, where you're taking what you wouldn't expect the revolutionary times of the United States to be put into the hip hop vibe. So I didn't enjoy it the way I wanted it. I felt like there were elements and aspects of it that I was like, okay, I accept this. But as a whole, I felt like they really should have changed it a lot more to be able to go along with Will Smith in the character, versus we're trying to make Will Smith sing these songs, which he's not a singer. He's a rapper. So I don't know. You're just it's going back to a Beauty and the Beast thing with Emma Watson, how she's not a singer. So really doing a disservice to her, because she is not meant, like, she does not play this role well. And therefore you have to, and I bet the music editor was not a fan of hers. So let's edit that voice, honey. It just comes off so bad. So bad. Anyway.
Yeah. I saw Aladdin again. It was another Blu-ray that I had received, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll see it, but didn't really. I love the original, it's my favorite animated film. But again, when you have one that's one of your favorite movies of all time, and they make this, it's like, I just want to watch
the original.
So going up next was The Lion King, and this is just the whole laughing stock of the kingdom, because they claim it's a live action remake when it really is an animated remake.
Yeah.
And they're just so, they just wanted to trick everyone. I don't know why they were so obsessed with this. They wouldn't put it in the best animated feature category in the Oscars. It was like, who do you think you are?
Right.
Okay? It was just entirely fake. And I didn't see this one, so I don't have much to say. And we're probably going to breeze through these last little bit. But
I didn't see this one either.
I didn't see it because it looks so unappealing. They made these real looking characters, and they just didn't have the emotion, the squash and stretch. Why do I care to see a real life looking lion do all these things that are so fun and unique and different from the original? I'd rather go watch the original.
Right.
It did over $1 billion, and it got me so frustrated, because I'm like, we're better than this, people. It's not good.
I know.
Why can't we acknowledge this?
It didn't get my dollars. Still hasn't.
And at 52% critic, 82% audience score.
Are you serious? 82%?
Who are these people who love this? I haven't talked to any person, literally 0 people, who like it. So I don't know.
I don't understand that at all. How is that a thing?
Next up, we have Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, October 18th, 2019. Didn't see this one. Again, I just didn't get around to it at this point in time. I had a lot going on and didn't love the first one enough to be like, yes, I gotta see that one. Because didn't love the first.
I did see it. I thought it was kind of a meh experience. Yeah, I didn't feel like they really beefed up. I just felt insincere, and just kind of like the characters were not at all fleshed out to be real people, and they were all just kind of caricatures of what they think that it should be, and it was just weird. It wasn't unwatchable, but it also wasn't something that I'm like, I want to watch that again. So it was like one and done. I'm good.
So many movies like that where you're like, okay, I had a decent enough time in the theaters, but I'm done with it. I don't
aesthetically
need to go back.
Beautiful. Great.
Yeah.
Moving on.
So now we're entering the Disney Plus era. This was the kind of the flagship movie, Lady and the Tramp,
of Disney Plus,
of Disney Plus, for them to say, look, we have original content here. You should check us out. So the day that this came out, November 12th, 2019, was the day that Disney Plus actually launched. And this was one of the big things. And it was shocking. It was like, oh, they're putting a movie only on Disney Plus. At least that's how I felt, you know, like, whoa, one of these big movies that they spent tens of millions of dollars to make. I can't believe it, you know, obviously based on Lady and the Tramp. So unfortunately, to this point, I still haven't seen it because you know how I feel about the remakes at this point in time. It's just like, no,
it just felt
no one has convinced me that I'm missing out on anything.
I haven't talked to anybody that says you should watch it.
I've heard it's cute.
Okay.
I've heard, yeah, it's cute and fun. You know, 65% critic, 50% audience score. So that's not enough to draw me.
No.
These aren't Pixar level 90s, you know, which we're used to from our last episode, Nerdy Couch discussion.
Right.
So moving on, Mulan, September 4th, 2020. And I'm trying to remember, this was not released in theaters, right? Like it was going to be, and then it was pulled.
And then it was exclusively to Disney Plus, but with premiere access. So
the
you had
premiere
to pay.
access, that was the difference. So they did that for a few films where you'd pay $20 to, you know, watch it 6 weeks before they would release it to the general public on Disney Plus. People were doing it. Supposedly box office, it did $70 million, you know, somehow. But I didn't see it. Again, I did see it. I refuse.
It was so boring. Oh my gosh. I was just like, I just remember banging my head, like proverbially, banging my head against my hand, just being like, stop it, move on. This is like, what else? What do you want out of me? I can't handle this.
It took all the fun out of Mulan, what I've heard. And just, you know, the songs are gone, which, okay, fine. You're going to be serious. Great. And they just took Mulan's character, from what I've heard, and turned her into something she wasn't. She's like the superhero human strength. I mean, she has all these.
This is where it comes down to you're creating a character who doesn't have any internal struggles as far as any weaknesses, making her super powerful, but all her main trials are overcoming other people. And that's just not good character development. Like, people have flaws. People need to look at themselves and be like, you know what? Maybe I am the problem. And this is one of those films that it's just like, no, the heroine must be perfect and must show that all others, it's their fault. It's like, I feel like you're trying to like get out of something for yourself. Like you're really not doing an internal look at yourself, being like, maybe I am. Are we the baddies?
No, it's the children who are wrong.
Exactly. So that's another element of it that I didn't like, but it was, in the end, it was just so boring. So
okay, so then we have Cruella.
Third time's a charm.
May 28th, 2021. I actually did see this one, and I think it was because I was just itching to go see a movie in theaters. And it worked out that we were going to have parents' night out at the gym, so we could just drop the kids off there, and then we could go watch the movie and be back in time. So I saw it. It was fun, totally different, and I liked that. I don't need to watch this movie again, but I liked what they had done with everything to make it different and unique.
Yeah.
It's a new take on Cruella, a young Cruella. It's an origin story of Cruella, and it's just totally different.
Yeah, you have to look at this as another universe kind of a feel. Emma Stone, I like her. I felt like her outfits and the whole costume design and everything about that was really fun. I mean, it was hard because you're really trying to create a villain still, and like, I want to be able to root for somebody's story and not just hear like this is why they're crappy, you know?
Yeah.
And then the other one is the fact that the very end is Pongo and Perdita are litter mates, which I have issues with.
We don't do that. We don't do that.
I have issues.
Rightfully so. So next up is this last of the bunch, Pinocchio. Just barely came out September 8th, 2022, to the worst of all reviews of all time. Well, except for Alice Through the Looking Glass, apparently. 27%. This is just, I haven't seen it, but everything I've seen is like,
bad.
Why? It's bad. It's horrible. It takes all the cool stuff about Pinocchio and it just washes it clean. You know, like when he goes to Pleasure Island, he doesn't want to be there. He's an unwilling participant, you know, and there's no longer beer there, and they're not smoking, and he just like, oh, I don't want to touch the root beer. And before, he literally needed a conscience because he made bad decisions. He was a bad boy to some extent. He just didn't know. And, you know, in the movie, in the original, like, he goes to Pleasure Island and he's participating in all the pleasureful fun, you know, and he needs to learn, and there's a lesson, there's consequences. And this, from what I've heard, is just not that. And it's kind of like, why? And it's Tom Hanks playing just like Tom Hanks in another role. Like
Tom Hanks with a mustache and a bad Italian accent.
Yeah.
And like at the very end, he doesn't turn back or doesn't turn into a real boy. You're
like,
left
what are we doing here, folks?
What is the point? Oh, gosh.
This was a Disney Plus exclusive. And again, just proving my point that Disney Plus, after a few years, to me, just kind of feels like the direct-to-DVD. Like, we weren't good enough. We weren't going to waste time releasing you to theaters. So we're just going to dump you over there.
Yes.
So, and this is, there's no way they would have let this go into theaters. But then, like, how did it get to this point? So that's what I'm saying. At this point,
I mean, they must have paid him a lot of money.
Yeah.
Just to know that you're going straight to Disney Plus. Oy.
Yeah, these last few years haven't really taught them anything. They have 16 of these live action remakes in the can. 4 of them have release dates going through 2024. There's Mufasa, the Lion King, like another one. What? It's
$1 billion, honey. Remember the money.
Remember
money.
Alice in Wonderland? How that didn't happen again. Yeah. Okay. We'll see how it goes. So, anyways, that's for another day. If we want to analyze what's coming up next, you let us know. But these are our thoughts. I'm not even going to rank them because I don't think it's fair. I'll let Chelsea rank them. But
what are your top of the things that you've seen? What are your top 4?
Not 4. I'll just give you my top number 1 is Cinderella. Cinderella does everything right. It's perfect. It's different. It's unique. It builds on a new story. Chef's kiss.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't even want to do 4. I'm just going to do 3. Or top 2, maybe. Top 1 is Cinderella. Next would be 1994 Jungle Book. And then maybe the other Jungle Book, 2016.
Yeah.
Those are really the only 3 that I'd feel like I would even watch again. Being like, yeah, all right, I'll watch that. Yeah. Everything else, I'm like, eh.
No, yeah,
I feel pressured.
So this does not have the same aura of happiness and excitement, as when we were reviewing Pixar's films.
Right.
Or Disney films. These are just kind of like, such a slog to get through. So I get why they're doing it, but I don't get why they keep doing this. They're not good. And I think they know they're not good. This is the Bob Chapek era, which is a nerdy couch discussion that we'll be doing future, is ranking the Disney CEOs. So stay tuned. That's going to be a really fun one, but Chapek, not my guy. So I'll just spoil it right there. So anyways, let us know your thoughts on this episode of the Animation Addicts podcast. You can leave us comments on the page, rotoscopers.com/277. You can also leave us voicemails, of course, rotoscopers.com/voicemails. And thanks to all of the patrons who, you can suggest films. Matthew for suggesting this. We just got off a really fun call, our Rotocast with the patrons, and had a fun time. So thanks all for your support. And that's all we have for today. Until next time,
we are the Rotoscopers.
Sorry, I was...
Were you burping? Right. I mean, can you believe... 2016 was not that long ago.
Chelsea has frozen.
I'm still here? What? I'm not frozen. Are you frozen? You're frozen. I'm not frozen. You're frozen. What happened? Checking Wi-Fi. Switching Wi-Fi. And I'm back. Am I back? Are you back? Hey.
I'm back. I don't know.
I switched.
That was me.
I don't know who that was, but I did go ahead and just switch my internet just in case. So
okay. Yeah, I switched mine to my other one too because internet is
I'm
the
still
worst.
recording.
Okay, why does it have to do that? Like, had a good thing going. All right, so let's keep going.
Now you're frozen again.
Oh. You've been listening to the Animation Addicts Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and be sure to leave us a 5-star review. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you want to help spread the word, be sure to share the podcast with your friends on social media. Just don't forget to tag us at Rotoscopers on Instagram and use the hashtag Animation Addicts. For all the links and full show notes for this episode, go to rotoscopers.com/podcast. Now, if you still can't get enough for your animation fix, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and visit rotoscopers.com for more animation news, reviews, and interviews. Thanks for listening.